Okay. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of From the Heart. I'm your host, Chloe Trca, and today's going to be a solo episode, and disclaimer, sorry that this is up a day late. I was traveling in Iowa with my family, and I was actually going to record an episode with my brother Anthony, but it was just like the craziest, busiest trip, and I had very minimal downtime, and when I did, I was like, you know what, I'd rather just spend like genuine time with my family rather than recording a podcast. So I was like, you know what, we'll just do a day late, and here we are. It's Monday. And I'm really excited about this topic because this is something that has been on my heart. It's definitely something new to me that I'm becoming more aware of and leaning into more. And I realized I have not been like this my entire life, which is crazy. This is like a new kind of realization. And it's just about being like a softer, more feminine person in general. As a female, like they have like feminine energy and masculine energy, and I've like heard of those things, but I really didn't like pay much attention to it. And I don't want to get too much into like energy and vibes because that's just not not really how I operate, but I definitely think that there's like a masculine energy people bring and masculine traits and feminine traits, and I think it's good to be a soft feminine woman. And I think before I was heavily in my masculine, like big time. I was like kind of doing some research into this, looking into it, learning about the masculine versus the feminine. And it just really opened my eyes, and I was like, okay, I really have been in my masculine for probably my entire life. Nobody's fault. Really, I can't even pinpoint like a specific reason other than the fact that I grew up around a lot of males. Like I am the middle sibling, the middle child between an older brother who's like 6 years older than me and my little brother who's 2 years younger than me, which many of you probably know. I've had them both on my podcast. They're like two of my best friends. And a dad who's very like masculine. He's very like just traditionally masculine. And my mom is traditionally feminine, but she definitely carries like masculine traits as well. She's kind of like the head of the household. And I don't know. I think I just had a really heavy influence of males in my life. Role models, most people I looked up to were males, career-wise and business-wise, and that's kind of who I would always hear from. And I'm very grateful because it's gotten to me where I am today. But now that I'm turning 23, I'm kind of like stepping into more adulthood, more womanhood, I guess you could say. I'm leaning more into my feminine, and it kind of, the reason this came up into my life and kind of was brought to my awareness, and it's making me reflect and kind of having a lot of these aha moments. And I want to just say like, living on this road drives me nuts because the cars think it's just like this show off lane and they just go all the way down. Anyway, I can't do anything about it. I'm sorry. But my old place was the interstate, and now it's just like a popular road, and it's just, I can't win. But, kind of lost my train of thought here. Where are we? So this kind of came to my awareness when dating my recent boyfriend, who I'm dating now, Kyler. So he's very masculine, and I'm not gonna lie, I think him being in his masculine so much was like shocking, and it was a big shock to me. And it caused like I don't want to say it caused problems, but it definitely like shook up our relationship because I was also so heavily in my masculine, and like two masculines, it just doesn't work. So a lot of those like traits were kind of like contradicting, and it was like, wow, like it was those aha moments of being like, oh, maybe I'm not necessarily like needing to be this way. Like this is an opportunity for a man to be in his masculine and him to lead, and I can be more soft, and I can like want to kind of take my guard down and just chill. And I think that's like the biggest thing I've learned is like when you find the right person, you will naturally like lean into your feminine side. And so if you're in a relationship, I guess I don't want to tell you what to do, but just be aware if you feel like you're very masculine, it shouldn't really be like that. It shouldn't have to be like that. And I can attest because in my past relationship, it was kind of the opposite. I'm going to be honest, like the way everything was, I was very dominant. I was very masculine. And I feel like I kind of led in a lot of things, not like led like it was a competition, but I made a lot of the decisions, just like what a man should do in a relationship to be a leader. Whether you're Christian or not, I feel like that's a pretty standard belief, is like the man is like the head of the household. It's very, very real in like the Christian traditional belief system, but I feel like that's just I don't know, maybe it's not in every household, but I just think that's pretty like general, like default, the man leads. Anyway, so I was realizing that that really wasn't how my relationship was, like looking back now, like just today, and like since I've been thinking about this, I'm like, wow, I could have been a better like girlfriend to him if I was more my feminine, but also too, it's kind of like a push and a pull. And like I couldn't be in my feminine because I don't think he was also in his masculine the way he should have been. And that's honestly, I think, the main reason that we didn't really work out, because I was so heavily like dominant and I was so heavily masculine, and I didn't like that. But coming out of that relationship, being single, being alone, you become very independent. At least I did, because I did depend on him for a lot. There was so much that he did that I didn't have to do. And so I think I was in this like hyper independent. I hadn't been single in so long, literally like my entire life, practically from like 14 to 20. Those are very pivotal, important years. I hadn't been on my own. So I took on this like persona of being like hyper independent and just doing everything for myself and working really hard and grinding and pushing myself. And again, like, I don't know if I would have gotten to where I am today without it. So I'm not ashamed. I'm not saying it's necessarily even bad to have that. But when you're in like a maturing relationship, if you're finding your husband, if you're with somebody and it's serious, I just think it's important to be aware of the masculine and the feminine roles in a relationship. And I just wasn't. Honestly, I didn't realize this again until dating my most recent boyfriend. And me and my brother will even have conversations, and he's like, Chloe, like, you gotta let up. Like, he is a man. Like, he's a real man. He's a very masculine guy. And I've always wanted that. I've always wanted that in a person. And I think it's, I knew it without knowing it, if that makes sense. Like, I knew what I wanted, but I didn't realize that's what I wanted. And I was always attracted to very like masculine, dominant, just like manly men. And that was one of the things that actually like attracted me to Kyler, my boyfriend, is he's very manly. Like, he takes lead. He does those like little things, like gentleman things, that I had never, no man had ever shown me before. Like, for example, he always opens the door when we walk into a place. He'll take the bill. He'll like, and well, we like split some stuff, and I like treat him to some things, but like he just like likes to like take the bill. Like, that's just a masculine thing he enjoys doing. But like one time this is before we were even like a thing or dating or whatever you want to call it. Like, we were honestly just friends. We were running, and he would always take the sidewalk side. He'd be like, hey, switch me quick. But it's just that like decency and that courtesy to be like, okay, put the female on the inside. It's like a protection, a safety thing, and the man goes on the outside. And there are these little like roles, and I had just never seen it before. And I was just so like, wow, like this, it meant so much to me because I needed it, and I didn't know I needed it. But you guys, fast forward, like, we've been together. He's been in my life for like 7-8 months. And just recently have I realized a lot of things we've had to work through and stuff has been because I have kind of sat in my masculine side still, because it was kind of my default. Again, I wasn't really aware that I was in this. It was just my normal. And I wasn't very soft. Like, and the thing is, like, I am online. I am on social media. I am to people, but like in relationships and the people closest to me, I was more masculine, and I don't know why. Like, I genuinely, I couldn't figure it out. Until I was having these conversations with Kyler, and he was like, Chloe, you need to let up and like soften up. And I was like, I want to be like that. I was like, it was like so weird for me to like understand, because I am like that, but I'm not like that all the time, and it's not intentional. So I had to like really reflect, and I had to be like, okay, what is causing this? Like, why have I been like this? And I think it was just like learned behaviors and learned patterns. And I've always felt the need to be like successful and to be go and like hustle and work hard. And that was my thing. If you guys have been like a loyal follower, if you've been like following me since like 2020 when I started like really getting into content, I've always been a hustler, and I still like am. Like, my work ethic isn't going away, but like I just have a different perspective on it, and it's refreshing, and it takes a lot of like, it puts a lot of ease on me, and it calms me, and it relaxes me to think about, because I was just always trying to like be such a high achiever and work myself to the bone and like grind. Like, I was always in the grind mindset, and I would wake up so early, and there were these little like seeds being planted, I think, along the way where I was like, okay, Chloe, you don't have to be like that. Like, it's not really good for your female body to be waking up at 5 a.m. every single day and grinding and doing all this and that. Like, I was hot, like, guys, I was doing like HIIT workouts at 5 a.m. like multiple times a week. I would wake up at 5 a.m. just because I felt like I had to be in that hustle mindset, that hustle like culture. And a lot of the content that I was consuming were like these men on podcasts, like talking about like their way of life and the way they're hustling and making it to the top and creating business. And I've always been like a woman in business, and I think that's amazing. Like, I think that's so empowering and that's so beautiful, and I love it. Like, I am that, and I continue to be that. And a lot of my friends are like that, and I look up to them and stuff, but it's like there's a difference between like feminine and masculine roles within that even. And I don't know. I took notes on this, you guys. I don't usually take notes on podcasts, but this has just been like so insightful, informative, like kind of mind-blowing to me, just because a lot of the things that I've been struggling with are caused by this. And I've made like significant changes in the past couple weeks, and it has like made my life so much better. It really, really has. But some of the signs that I kind of picked up along the way, and I was like, oh, that's out of masculine, that's out of this. And this is just the research I did. It wasn't all like, I don't know how I don't want to like say this is like facts from some like .org site. Like, no, this is just kind of like rough research I did. Some of it was literally from TikTok. Like, I don't know, but it makes sense. So I'm going to share it. But I wanted to give that disclaimer that I'm not like certified in talking about this stuff, but this is just my life and what I'm figuring out, and we're sharing it on here. Okay. But signs that I was like in my masculine that I'm like realizing, was that I'm kind of aggressive in a funny, not like, I'm not like a mean, gonna like hurt you aggressive, but like sometimes I get like overly like aggressive. I don't know how to explain it. Like when I get excited, or like I'll be joking around, or Kyle and I like do something, I'll be like a little too like hard. Like if I like give him like a little side bump or something like that, or I don't know, my reflexes, my reactions are just like always like tight gripped, and I just stuff like that. Like shaking a hand, I would shake a hand like a 50-year-old businessman, like it was gonna break your hand. I don't do that anymore. I still give a firm handshake because I just think that's like a respect, but like it doesn't need to be as firm as it once was. It was just aggressive. It was a very strong, I don't know, just that's all I can say about that. And another sign was competitiveness. I think a lot of girls are competitive. I don't think that's necessarily like only masculine, but it was brought up in the like research I was doing, and it was saying that aggressive and competitiveness are like two signs of being in your masculine. It doesn't mean a woman can't be, you know, obviously I'm a woman and I am these, but I'm a very competitive person, and I have been my whole life. And I think that one stems mainly from sports, just because I grew up playing sports. I grew up with my brothers. I wanted to pretty much like compete with them and like stay with them, you know. I wanted to be able to like kick the ball around or like play with ball in the back, like hang with them. I wanted to be able to hang with them, and I didn't want to get left in the dust because I was a girl. And so I became very competitive, and that just like kind of trickled into like sports as I grew up, like when I was in my own, like on my own teams. And then it kind of bled into being competitive with myself and my career and in school. Like I just always wanted to be a high achiever. I think that's pretty normal though. I don't know. But again, like if a male isn't competitive, that's just a turn off for me. That's a preference. But again, that's like a masculine trait. And if a guy isn't competitive, I'm like, do you not have that like drive in you? Do you not have that like, you know, urge to like provide and like be at the top? I don't know. I just like when a guy's competitive, and I think it's okay for me to not be as competitive, but that's when I don't think that will change that much, because I think I'm just kind of gonna be competitive with myself at least. Anyway, another one was always rushing. I'm like, this list is literally me, or was once me. Always rushing. I'm always rushing. I'm always in a rush. The thing is, it stems from always wanting to be like efficient and productive and get everything done and just constantly be like going, because I feel guilty when I'm not. I feel like I should be achieving all this stuff and getting all this stuff done and always advancing every single day. And I think that's important. Like I don't want to get lazy. I don't want to be inefficient, but I don't need to be like literally, I can take 2 seconds to sit down. I can take 30 minutes to go lay out in the sun if I need a little break in the middle of my day. Like I can take a slower morning if I need it. I don't need to wake up at 5 a.m. and rush out the door and be at the gym and be here and be at my computer. Like, I don't need to be like that. And I have been like that for most of my life. I'm still a morning person. I enjoy my mornings, but now my mornings are a lot different. Like, I wake up, I make my coffee, I read my Bible, I journal. That takes me like 45 minutes to an hour. No way would I have wasted 45 minutes to an hour of my morning a year ago doing that. Like, I was up at the gym getting my workout done, like the second I woke up. So just little changes like that. Another sign was excessive focus on physical strength. I felt kind of called out here because she was like, this would be if a woman walked into the gym and she wanted to out bench press every guy in there. And I was like, that's me. I guess I don't want to out bench press every guy, but like, I want to be a strong girl. Like, I want to out bench every girl in there. Like, can I lift more than her? And I guess that just like naturally kind of drifted from a desire of mine. I once was like that. Now I really don't care, like, at all, if I'm going to be honest. I know what I'm capable of. I know if I wanted to be super strong, I could be. And props to the females who are. I think that's amazing. Like, these are all things that I did and I still do, but I think I'm just letting off the pressure of having to do them every single day. But just the excessive focus on physical strength. I think now I just prioritize feeling good and feeling healthy rather than progressive overloading every single day and trying to like be so insanely strong, even though I'm just naturally very strong though, and that's just something I always excelled in. So I took advantage of that and I really leaned in on it. And like, there was a point I was benching 155 and I was squatting like 305. Like, that's a lot of weight for a female. So it's just interesting going through this list, because this next one was probably the biggest one, and this is the one that's honestly caused the most issues in my life, especially recently in a relationship, is suppressing emotions. And she was listing examples and she was like you view crying as weak, or you just try to tough it out all the time. And I'm like, I feel like she's literally screaming at me through the phone. That was me. And I'm still working on it, truly. Like, I don't know. I've talked about it some on here, but it's funny because I'm like a hypersensitive person. Again, that's a very feminine trait, is to be like sensitive, have emotions. But I think I was so hypersensitive that I got my feelings hurt so much as a kid that I was sick of it. And I just kind of put up a front and like closed off my heart and suppressed every emotion. And I turned that into anger. And I turned all my sadness into anger because it was easier for me to deal with. I didn't like being sad. I did not like crying. I seriously, like, for the longest time, did not cry ever. Like, once a year. Like, barely at all. Like, situations where you would be like, why are you not crying? And I would want to cry, but like, I couldn't get myself to cry. Like, I would have to like really sit there and think about like wanting, like, how do I like cry right now? Because I feel like that's what I should be doing to be like coping with this. And I couldn't. And I just think it's crazy because now that I actually like express my emotions and talk about my feelings and talk about my emotions in general, I do cry. And I feel so much more relieved. Like, I will be upset about something and I'll just give myself a little cry and then I move on. And it's like, I coped with it. I handled it. I healed from it just through crying. And I'm like, wow, if I would have just realized that 10 years ago, maybe my life would be a little like different. I mean, I'm glad everything happens for a reason and I'm living and I'm learning, but I'm like, why? I wish I hadn't viewed crying as weak. I wish I didn't think I needed to toughen it out. Like, it's okay to express your emotions, to feel sad. Like, again, that's a huge thing with dating someone who's like someone is masculine. Like, Kyler is one I can like lean on in those times, and he's so comforting and he does exactly what a man's supposed to do, and he like comforts me and he hears me out and he tries to help me. And like, that's literally like, a woman will stay in her masculine until she meets a man who makes her feel safe in her feminine. And I think that's why I become more emotional, and I'm like, honestly, in a weird way, enjoying it because I feel it's what's supposed to happen. It's like natural for me. It feels right. It feels like healthy. But like, it's crazy. I don't know. Like, I guess men are essentially supposed to be problem solvers for women, and women are supposed to be problem solvers for men. So it's like, my issues, I'm supposed to be able to come to Kyler and he's supposed to be able to like know how to comfort me and lead me and protect me and like give me security. And then I'm supposed to be able to be there and like comfort him and like do certain things that a feminine girl like should be able to help a guy with, who they like, that's not a trait of theirs, that's not a masculine trait, so they need the help from like the female to, you know, like lean into that. And it's just so, it just makes so much sense to me. I'm like, what, I don't know. Anyway, back to the signs, because there's a few more. Another one was extremely independent or self-sufficient. I was like, okay, sorry, let me take a sip of this. I need a little drink before we get chatting. But this one, like, you guys, I like made a whole thing on TikTok about my like independent era. I talked about it all the time. I like love my alone time, and I think I viewed that as just like becoming hyper independent and loving my independence. And I think it's great to like be self-sufficient. I think everyone should be able to operate on their own before they get into a relationship, because I don't think it's good to be like 100% dependent on somebody, on a man. That is part of like marriage and stuff, is to like become dependent on each other and like depend on each other for stuff. But like, I don't want to be completely dependent on anyone. Like, I like having my own security, and it gives me a sense of like peace. I would say peace, knowing I can be sufficiently on my own. Like, I can provide for myself now. Like, that's why I work, so I can like do what I want to do, and you know, like live the life I want to live. That gives me peace. That doesn't give me stress. That gives me peace. And that's why I do what I do. And I'm like, that makes so much sense. But I think living in like a fear-based visual of constantly having to like do things to, I don't know, I don't want to get into that because I'm kind of confusing myself, and I don't want to confuse you. So we'll just stop that right there. But anyway, the next sign is constantly grinding and achieving. Yeah, that was me. The thing is, like, I still am grinding. I'm still achieving. Like, there's still so many goals I have set, and I'm still working hard every single day. I'm still like on a very good routine with work, but I'm not like so rigid. Like, for example, the podcast today, like, I'm sorry it's a day late, but I needed that time with my family. I needed that like just true, wholesome time, you know, and I wanted it to be quality time, and I appreciate that so much, and I needed that so much. I needed that more than I needed this podcast to be up today, you know. But like a year ago, 6 months ago even, like, no, I would have got that podcast done, edited, would have stayed up till 3 a.m. last night doing it. Like, I would have gotten it up. And I'm like, I think it's so relieving to know that like it's okay, and I don't have to rush things, and I can still get it done, just in like a better timing. That, I mean, this podcast is gonna be way better because I'm like doing it at a better time, not rushing it, and like allowing it to happen, rather than like wedging it in when I really want to just be like hanging out with my parents and my family, and not doing it in a camper while we're camping, whatever. Like, there's a better time for it, and that just like wasn't that time. Another sign was always teetering on burnout, and just feeling exhausted and wanting to kind of just like call it quits, and just not being motivated and inspired. And I kind of dealt with that more so recently, because I'm more years into what I'm doing. It's not as new. And I guess like us females shouldn't have to deal with that as much. It's not like a feminine trait, they were saying, and I just find that interesting. And then the last one was having your guard up. I definitely had my guard up a lot. And again, I think it was just because I was so hypersensitive that I kind of like hardened my heart. And that sounds like really terrible, because like I'm a very loving person, and I'm so loving and I'm so sensitive that I had to kind of put my guard up and harden my heart, because I was getting my heart like feelings hurt so much. But now that I'm older, it's like, okay, I have much more understanding, and I have much more wisdom and knowledge that I can like cope and heal from things that might hurt my feelings. And I'm like less sensitive than I once was, just because I'm more mature. And so it's like, now that I've like let my guard down and I've like softened my heart, and I think growing my relationship with God and becoming more of a Christian woman, like that has naturally softened my heart so much. Like, that single-handedly is like what has changed my heart. And then I think from there, it's led me to other opportunities to also like soften my heart, like the relationships that I'm in and stuff. So, yeah, no, but like I'm very much more emotional now. And another thing too, that, and I don't know the science behind it, but it's just me like reflecting and thinking, but I had like the hormonal IUD for most of this time, since like 2019. So the past like 5 years. And I think that's probably when this whole like hyper independent era of my life like really has been like the strongest. But like my hormones were also like not natural, and they were like synthetic hormones in my body. I hate thinking about that. But like I think that affected my mood, because since being off it, I'm much more emotional as well. And it's like I can sense it. Like there's a week right before my period, when I start my period, I'm very like emotional. Like I'm very emotional. And I just like wasn't really like that as much previous. And I'm like, I wonder if there's like a correlation between the two. I don't really know, but it would kind of make sense if there was. And then, yeah, so, I don't know. I just think it's so interesting that like I once was just very, very in my masculine, and now over time, finding God, finding a man of God, finding a masculine man, it has just like, it has made it so much easier to be in my feminine. And that's just so eye-opening to see and reflect on the past relationships I've been in when I am very in my masculine. It's typically like when I look at it, I'm like, okay, well, they were very in their feminine. Not that they were like a girly guy or they weren't like a man, but there were traits that they were much more in their feminine. Now it forced me to be much more my female or in my masculine, and maybe vice versa. Maybe I was so in my masculine that it caused them to be in their feminine. That could be it too. I don't know. But it's just really interesting to look back, and I'm like so glad I'm not like that anymore, or at least I have a better understanding on it, because life is just so much better when I'm like not constantly stressed, not constantly like overworking myself, not constantly like trying to hide from my emotions and think that being tough is what I have to do. Like us girls, we don't have to be. Like it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel your emotions. It's okay to be sad. And same for guys. Like guys have like there's traits of feminism, feminine energy that they should like also have. Like we still have a balance. So it's like not bad for them to do those things either. It's just, I would say the balance of it is just naturally different. But I think it's interesting because they were saying feminine energy leans on masculine energy, and they lean on them as like a leader. They need the man to lead them. They need the man to, like, women are supposed to surrender to men. And that was like something I was like, no, absolutely not. Now that I'm like growing in my faith, it's something I'm much more like open to, and I understand, and like I want to do that and be more of like a submissive wife, I guess. And I'm not going to talk too much into that because that's more like biblical, but that's just like my own personal beliefs. And yeah, but I think everyone should be able to like lean on a man. Like that's what they're there for us. Like they should be able to lean on us for certain things, I think, as well, though. Like it's receptive, it's vice versa. It's just so interesting to me. It really, really is. But I was kind of looking and I was like, so what are some like masculine traits? And it was saying that like being in your masculine is acquiring, pursuing, like working towards stuff constantly, like trying to be alpha. It's ultimately like to be like a provider and to build an empire. Like every guy who's heavily in their masculine, like especially dating, like recent like year when I'm like dating, every guy's like, oh, I want to build an empire. But the thing is, like, to build an empire, it also takes like a woman in their life to build. There was a podcast that it was a clip from a podcast. Who was it? Gosh, I know this guy. I'm blanking on his name. He's this really big guy in sales. If you guys, wow, what's his stinking name? He like used to sell, like he would re-kick gyms and like sell them and make money. And now he's just this big business guy. Wow, I literally know his name. I'm blanking. Anyway, him and his wife, but he was like explaining, he's like, men will make so much more money when they're married and when they have kids, because they have that like need to provide more than they had to before. Like when you have kids and you have a family, it's going to cost more money. So you're going to need to make more money. And ultimately, like there's proven facts that like men will increase their income when they have family because of that just natural instinct to do that. But they were also talking about how important it is to like have that female in their life to like support them, encourage them, have faith in them, be there for them and like help guide them along the way. And I just think it's cool because it's such a team thing. It's such a team thing. Like men and women are like created to like lean on each other for certain things. And I think that's so beautiful. And it's made my life and my career and like my future so much easier to think about and so much less stressful, because I know that like meeting the right person, I know what I want to bring to the table, and it's just changed my goals, like as a girlfriend, as a wife, as a mother. It's changed my goals for myself. Like I don't know, it changes the way I act and behave and react to things. And it's like significantly improved my life, like my own personal, like with me, but also my relationships with people, my relationships with my siblings, my friends. Big improvement on like my relationship with Kyler and stuff. But I don't know, I just like hope that this like resonates with someone listening, because I do think a lot of us females, like in this day and age especially, have been forced into our masculine, because it's like hustle culture, like be a boss woman. And I still think that's amazing. Like I don't want to like contradict that, and that might be confusing, but I still think it's amazing when there's women in business and women can do amazing things. But it's like, take the pressure off the like intensity of like the really rigid stuff that we do to ourselves, just because like it's not really great on our bodies. Like naturally we're just like, our cortisol spikes and we get inflamed and we get like exhausted. Like think of your luteal phase. Like that's when I think it was the most alarming to me. I was like, I literally, because of my body, need to like sit back and relax and calm down. Well, men don't have that. Wonder why they are like created to do what they're supposed to do. Like they can do that. Their bodies work on like a 1 hour clock. Ours changes every week. So it's like, we're completely different every week of the month. They are not. They're the same. So I don't know. There's just so many like tidbits that connect and just make sense to me. And I just really wanted to talk about this because it's like, I feel like I was a very, like I said, in my masculine, and I'm just really like enjoying becoming more soft and more of my feminine. And I like, it's just been amazing. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you learned something. I hope this was maybe a little eye-opening. Again, like I don't want you guys to think I'm like shaming women who like grind and hustle, because that's me. That still is me, and I have that in me. And I think that's amazing. Women should be able to like achieve and create and do all the things they want to do, but it's okay to like be in your soft feminine side as well. So anyway, with that, I'm gonna end this episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. I love you, and we will chat next week on Monday, I promise. Bye guys.